Welcome to day 108 of the 300 movie challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of May 2003, which was Finding Nemo.
We're
I'm
s-
happy.
we're saved.
Nemo wasn't the only one who was saved.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, right? After what we had to
The
endure up
little
until now.
the little Nemo that could.
Yes.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh my god.
What? I know that song.
I will say, well, there's two things. One thing is that we've all seen this before.
Yes.
I saw this. I did see it at least more than once, but I have not seen it in a long time. And there were definitely things that like I forgot about. There was actually a lot of like dialogue things that I like forgot about as like a joke.
Yeah.
I might have just not realized it was a joke because I was probably like a kid when I saw this last. So I don't even remember them all. But well, there was
It
one
was
where
very entertaining.
he calls the seahorse like Pony Boy, for example.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, Outsiders reference,
Yeah.
maybe.
There was something else though. I don't remember what it was. Anyway, so that was. But the other thing is that I realized that I totally forgot about this until right now. I had a Game Boy Advance game for Finding Nemo.
Really?
Yeah,
Whoa.
What was it like?
it was.
Like, what did...
I mean, it was like a side scroller. I mean, it wasn't a platformer because you were swimming around, right? But
Yeah.
it was that kind of a game where like you'd go through levels that kind of like, for example, there was a level where, you had to like navigate through the jellyfish maze or whatever, and then there was another one where, there was one where like you had to escape from Bruce. And then I think there was another one we had to escape from like the anglerfish. I don't know. I don't remember it very well.
So you just followed the storyline.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to like look it up again and like see like what was actually in the game, like the levels, because I really don't remember that much. I remember.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, I think me and Rahul might have had the PS2 game for it.
Oh, really?
I think so. But we
Kinda-
couldn't get past the part where we had to get him to school because it was so hard.
Aw.
I remember. Oh, there was a level where you had to like bring the pebble like to the filter or whatever. But the filter was like a really long, complicated maze, or for some reason. So I remember I was stuck on that for a long time. I remember. I don't know if I ever actually beat the game because I remember getting to like a level that was based on like, you know, like the pipes, like when Nemo escapes, like he gets flushed or whatever. There was a level around like the pipes, and I remember that, but I feel like I never actually beat it because I got lost. I couldn't figure out where to go. But I don't remember this very well, so I want to like look it up again and see if it has anything on it. The Finding Nemo Game Boy Advance game. So I don't know, but yeah. So it was interesting to just kind of see this again, where it was like, you know, we knew at least what was going to happen in a general sense.
Yeah.
Coming into it, which is, I mean, it's how it's been for a lot of these kind of movies.
Wait, on a small side note, if you hear snoring, that is Sora.
Okay.
Very peacefully.
Another baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
But well, one thing that I did could like appreciate was just like all the like expressions they got on like all the animals.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, it's kind of hard to, how do you animate something that's not a person, right? How do you do that and still have it come off as like genuine human expressions and stuff like that?
They did a really good job with that, and they're still fish too. Like,
Yeah.
You can see with the animation things where you see them like straight on or on top, you can see them being fish and everything.
There's also like the details with the scales and some of the shots,
Yeah.
like near the end when like they think Nemo like got hurt, and you see like the reflection of his scales.
Yeah. And a lot of the scenery and the backgrounds or everything are really beautiful too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely, it's interesting to see kind of Pixar like, you know, develop and improve on stuff as they.
And the people
forth.
look like people.
Yeah, the people
Yeah.
look better. There's still, it definitely seems like there's still, you know, there's a reason they're not making a story about people yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering, because I'm thinking this way, like, The Incredibles is the 2004, and like
Yeah.
they look good, right? Incredibles
Yeah.
looks good, so there's definitely a difference between the Finding Nemo people and the Incredibles people. So that's something. But again, it's not
Yeah.
like a big difference. It's not like the people look bad here at all.
It's a humongous improvement from the first Toy Story
Yeah,
movie.
for sure. So it's just interesting to see how that works. But yeah, it's that was one thing, and then another thing was that like there's actually kind of a lot of messages kind of in this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually about like parenting, and
Yeah.
I had heard like kind of recently that there was a lot of like disability representation for like physical and mental disabilities, and now I can actually see it.
Yeah, no, because like the whole
Nemo and then Dory too.
Mhm.
yeah, especially because thing with Nemo is especially his deal is that like he has kind of the fin, right, and
Yeah.
so therefore there's this whole thing about because of the fin he can't do a bunch of stuff, right, and
Yeah.
so it's kind of about like well it doesn't because could it be harder for him, sure, but you shouldn't like immediately shut it down, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. It's like you should at least let him like try it, as long as you're not gonna die if you fail, right?
Like touching the butt.
Yeah. So, and that's something that's really important because again, someone who is legally blind, that's definitely a very common thing where you get people who just like assume that like that's not a thing, right? The
Yeah.
stuff you could do, and it's things where like people say stuff and you're just like confused. It's like, why the hell would you think I wouldn't be able to do that? Like, I know this wasn't like something that exactly like that, but I was talking to somebody about like my vision, and I was describing how there's like a bunch of things that I do without even like looking, and like my examples were tying my shoes and shaving, and it's
Oh.
like and I don't know if people think like, oh, that's so weird. Like, how could you not like look what you're doing? And I'm like, I don't need to look at what I'm doing to do that. You could
A
just
lot of that has to do with muscle memory.
yeah, you look
Honestly.
you look at it because you're just used to doing that and because you can, right? But it's not like you have to. For
Yeah.
shaving, it's like I put the thing in that part of my face, and then I use my finger to be like, is there hair still there? No, okay, move on, and like keep going, right? I don't need to see what I'm doing for that. And then same with the shoes, you can just kind of tell with where my hands are. It's also like when I'm like untying something, I oftentimes like don't even really look at what I'm untying because like that doesn't help that often. So it's stuff like that where it's just people, because again, that's just how they know. They assume that like, oh, that's something that maybe not that you can't do it, but that it's really hard and like unnecessarily hard. And it's like, okay, sure, could you do it a bit faster? Yeah, but it's like at the same time you have to teach them to be able to do stuff by themselves, right? It's not like, as a blind person you're going to have someone else there to tie your shoes every day. You know what I mean? It's not going to work like that. So you have to
You're not Bruce Wayne.
well, I think it's a little bit of a different issue, but anyway. But yeah, so that's kind of interesting how that plays out. And again, I get it from like the parental perspective that like that's really that kind of mindset is hard to get through, and that's portrayed for Marlon because like you understand his point of view completely.
Yeah,
Right.
like with what happened to his wife and his
Yeah.
other unborn children.
Yeah, and just that's very safety conscious thing. That's absolutely fair, and especially for someone again who has like a physical disability, it makes total sense that you'd be very protective of that and you'd want to be very careful.
Yeah.
So it makes 100% sense, but at the same time, it creates this really good balance where it's like you understand both Nemo and Marlin's. Yeah, you
Yeah.
understand them very, very well in terms of like where they're coming from, and there is this kind of balance where it's like, yeah, Nemo can't go like live his own life right now immediately, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can't just keep him in the anemone forever. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
this balanced how that's handled. So yeah, and then actually this is really subtle, but I picked up on it, and I wanted to mention it with Gil and how after Nemo first tries to go in the water filter and he fails and almost like dies, right? But they save him. And so when Nemo goes to talk to Gil or whatever, and Gil like just straight up says, he's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have made you do that.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking like, a lot of adults really don't like admitting they were wrong, especially to kids.
yeah.
And that's important because I feel like a lot of times, and again, I kind of, from stuff that I've heard from like my students, like for teaching or whatever, I've heard them say stuff where it's like, oh, like my teacher got like corrected by a student and he got like really mad about it or something, and it's like, why would you get mad about that? Like, if someone is right about something that I'm wrong at or something, then like I don't take that as like, oh, I'm insulted, my intelligence is insulted, or whatever. No, it's like, it makes you seem more like a reasonable person when you admit that you're wrong about something, and that's a way of like building respect in terms of that regard as well, because it's like, oh, I'm fallible and I admit that, and then I just move on, right? It's a good role model for kids as well, because then they don't get like super defensive if they're wrong about something, where it's like, yeah, I was wrong, okay, whatever, and you get to move on and just deal with it like an adult person. So that's one thing that I like.
Too.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I kind of am glad that they at least touched upon that a little bit, because I feel that's a problem that a lot of people have, where they're like, they just hate to be proven wrong, and like that's something where then that leads to like denial, and then that leads to people getting like, upset at each other over completely stupid shit that they should not be upset about. So I don't know, that was just something I noticed, but anyway.
No, I think you bring up a good point with that too.
That's not something I actually noticed. I just was like, oh yeah, I always liked Gil the fish, but I guess I never really understood why until you mentioned that.
Yeah, and also, again, he's also a part of the thing about, like, encouraging him to kind of do stuff on his own in that regard as well. So that's...
Right.
He's helpful in that aspect, too, so...
Because he's also kind of, like...
Yeah,
he's in the same vein.
Exactly,
yeah,
he's been through it, he understands it, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that stuff's all done well, and I didn't really remember... I mean, I knew about, like, the disability stuff, like, I kind of remembered that as, like, a thing, but I didn't really exactly remember how it's played out, so... Yeah, I can't really speak for Dory. To be honest, I find her kind of annoying, but, it's just, it's... I don't feel like she's handled in, like, a bad way or anything, so... I can't really comment on, like, if that's, like, a fair representation or whatnot, because I don't have a mental disability, so I can't really comment, but, yeah, I don't know. Anyway. Oh, I will say, actually, I guess they kind of imply it, but not really. They don't really go into this route. They don't really, like, make Marlon and Dory a couple.
No.
Which I'm kind of glad they didn't, because it's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, it's you could kind of argue they imply it at the end about how, like, they're kind of living together, I guess. But I don't know. They definitely are not romantic with each other, right? And so that's kind of nice, again, because it's not needed, right? And then
and they don't force it in any way either.
Right.
They kind of have, like, a buddy cop kind of relationship, if you want to equate it to something that's kind of similar.
Because it kind of feels like if they did try to force them into a relationship, it would kind of get into that whole territory of, like, the person, like, oh, I'm gonna be in a relationship with this person because I'm going to save them from their troubles or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they didn't go into that, which is nice to just, and again, it just adds unnecessary stuff to the movie. It takes focus away from what actually would be the point of the movie. So I'm just glad they didn't go through with that. I am, like, I never saw Finding Dory because, again, I never really liked Dory that much, so I had no really desire to see this Finding Dory. But I am kind of curious now, like, what they actually do in Finding Dory, because I have no idea where to go from here. I guess they have to make a completely new story up.
Yes, me and Ryan have watched it.
Yeah, I have no idea, so... I haven't even seen, like, a trailer or anything. I've seen nothing about the movie, so...
It's pretty cute.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a cute movie.
Okay, so... I don't know.
I was like...
It'll sugarcoat your soul.
Oh, God. I need... But my soul is, encrusted with salt.
Oh my God. Bro, the salt water.
Yes. It's
when you mentioned that, I remembered the scene in The Whale where Marlon was like, it's half empty, and she's like, but I kind of see it as half full. Oh.
Oh yeah,
When you mentioned that, I was like, oh, that's.
that kind of
was-
summarizes their personalities really well, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
More or less
there's a lot of
hardcore.
kind of clever dialogue throughout,
Yeah, actually.
but I don't know. I mean, comparing it to other Toy Story. I meant to say Pixar. I just said Toy Story. Oh my god, I'm
Company's
tired.
actually Toy Story.
Well, I do think. I like Toy Story 2 more. I don't know about Toy Story 1. That's hard to say.
I think I like it better than Toy Story 1 because Toy Story 1, I felt you were just like, in your head, you were like, come on, guys, you gotta work together on
Oh
this.
yeah, with
Do
Woody
it.
and Buzz.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Well, in this movie, it was definitely more fluid, and you can see where everyone's going, and you're not, like, in your head being like, ah!
Yeah,
guys."
that's fair.
Yeah, based on where I ranked it, I liked it better than Toy Story 1, but a tiny bit less than Toy Story 2.
I think I don't know. I really like Toy Story 2, so that's kind of like my bias for it. But it's not like I like it way more, but I do. I think I forgot where I put it compared to Toy Story 1, so I have to go check on that. But I think I agree with you, Dara. I do like this a bit more. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if you haven't watched it, I don't really know why you haven't watched it.
Yeah, there's not. Is there anything like? Again, I guess the only like negative thing I could possibly say is that like again, I kind of find Dory annoying. I don't dislike her. She's not like Jar Jar Binks or something, but like, you know,
He's not like a lot of the other people we've seen.
more like every main character from the last 4 months.
Yeah, I know.
So
I guess she's kind of like Sid, where you kind of understand that she has to kind of be like this, but
yeah,
it's not
that's a decent
bad.
comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's actually a good comparison. This or Ice Age? I don't remember where I put these movies in the rankings. Oh my god.
You can contemplate that.
We have like so
It's
many.
kind of interesting because it's like a different set where in Ice Age they were bringing the son back to his father, but in this the father's going after and trying to find his son.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
It's interesting.
And one is about things in the water, and the other's about things on top of frozen water.
A lot of frozen water, apparently.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like I just talked a long time by myself.
Oh, it's okay. And they
I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah.
It's a really nice and pleasant movie, and I'm so glad we watched it in all of this hell.
Yeah. Fish are friends, not food.
Yes.
Although fish is delicious.
Sushi.
Yeah, salmon.
Goldfish.
Truth.
True! It's too bad we didn't watch this in Truth Month.
No.
Yeah.
There's
But
like-
then we would have felt bad because we would need to tell a live fish story.
Oh yeah, some big
right.
fish story. What even fish story that I mean, I guess the fact that like my Ugh. Oh my god, my throat is really dry. Hold on. Oh my god, I'm out of water. No. Okay.
You're a fish out of water.
Oh my god. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Let me start that sentence over. The only thing I could think of is like my dad had a fish tank, but like everything kept dying. So
That's not a live
mean-
fish story.
For me, I had a fish that. Oh wait, no, I just leave that.
I do have
That'll be a story for another day.
I
okay,
do have a live fish story, but I
you'll save that one too.
should save it. Yeah.
I don't really have anything because I don't really remember the fish very well. So I just remember they all like died really quickly. There were a good amount of them, but whatever. Oh well. Finding Nemo.
Yes,
Yeah,
please go
go.
watch it.
Go watch it again.
It does make me
If you-
actually. It makes me wonder, where did the name Nemo come from?
I guess we'll find out.
It's
Or
kind
I
of a
guess leave in
random
the
name.
comments.
It's kind of a random name, and it's not like
No.
I'm trying to think if it's like short for something, like,
Let me see.
or like part of a word.
Does
Like at first, I was thinking is like is it because it's like anemone? So it's
Oh,
like
maybe?
switching that, maybe?
That's a good point.
But even then, that seems like pretty specific. I don't know.
Marlin Jr. and
Well,
Coral
Marlin's
Jr.
obvious because that's the name of a fish, right?
Yeah.
It means nobody in Latin. This was the name used by author Jules Verne for the captain of the Nautilus in his novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh.
Mm.
There you go.
I guess.
The reference.
I mean, personality-wise, they're like complete opposites, so I don't really know how that works. But well,
Probably a reference.
they're not complete. Well, they're not really complete opposites. They're more like,
Oh my god, you know what another question from Google is?
what?
What?
Is Nemo a girl or a boy?
But I have to find my son.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen my son?
You know what the really sad thing is?
What?
Before you said that, I was about to say that's a good question, and then I realized, oh wait, no, it's not.
I'm looking for my son.
Oh well.
I mean,
Hey.
I don't know. Maybe you could make the argument that he's gender fluid, but I don't.
don't
know.
think
Okay,
that that's what they were
Apparently,
thinking.
Not go
I
into
think the
that.
reason they asked that question is because one species of clownfish can
Oh,
switch
yeah.
genders.
That's true.
So
I guess. Yeah, maybe it's valid then. You can make the gender fluid argument.
Okay. I don't think that's what they were going for.
no.
But
Wait, but then does that mean that Marlin is mom and dad now?
I mean, he pretty much had taken up both roles.
well,
so.
okay, I'm trying to remember because I forgot with the clownfish thing. I'm trying to remember. Is it the males who become female, or is it the females that become male?
According to Google, he has the potential to join a small group of clownfish and take on the role as a girl or a reproductive female.
Okay.
As a male.
Because I think the
Oh.
idea is that like if there are no females or something, like a male can switch. I think.
Mhm.
guess
I
that
don't
makes
know.
more sense.
I don't know biologically how it works, but that's that is true. Okay. Huh.
Anyone that
Interesting questions.
anyone knows about clownfish can enlighten us. That'd be great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have all of the clownfishologists. I'm trying to think of like a scientific name for clown. Because a fish scientist would be an ichthyologist, so I'm trying to think of like a prefix to that.
A clown ichthyologist.
Clowno-ichthyo.
Prion percu. I am the worst person to be trying to.
I don't know what you're doing.
I'm trying to. It has its like Latin name here.
Oh,
but I
the
can't
clownfish Latin
pronounce it.
name?
Yeah, like
Here.
this particular.
Paste it in the thing, I'll read it. This is definitely a worthwhile time investment for this.
Oh my god.
Oh, Amphiprion percula.
Yeah, that thing.
Why is it like amphibian at the front? Whatever. I don't. You know what? This is not important.
Why are we saying this in a movie?
I don't
review?
know.
Bye, guys.
This has been long. Yeah, this has
Bye.
been long enough. So bye. Next.
Bye.
Well, we should at least mention the next movie is another one that's almost certainly going to suck.
Yeah,
So
we're back in hell. So
yeah.
thank you, Nemo and Marlin.
Yes.
Story. Thank you.
And Crush.
And Bill.
Ambrose.
Yes, and Nigel. Everyone.
Everyone.
All the protagonists.
Yes.
Thank you.
I wish we were just rewatching this movie tomorrow.
Let's just watch it for the rest of the year until like the last couple.
Last two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bye,
Well-
guys.